capital is right next to a spaceport, so it would make sense for that. So these tanks, they're probably like artillery, short range artillery or something, but they were, in the story of whatever is going on here, they were captured by rebels from the military. The heck? Oh, oops. And just as part of a revolution, that's the word, against the unpopular planetary government. It would make sense for this to be in the capital. It could also be near a spaceport because they might be trying to flee. Because in the history of this thing that I made up, they wouldn't be the first ones to steal from the military and then run away. I don't know why they take ground vehicles and then flee to space. So I think it's probably more likely that they're just trying to either stake out their own territory or overthrow the government. And then this guy here, he's a Marine going and intercepting the convoy. Because the military is the only demographic that actually... Hang on, let me pull up. I have a lot of stuff about this. I've been working on it for over a year. Not this picture specifically, but like the world it's set in. So like all of this is stuff that I've been working on recently. I have most of it written down on paper and I'm just putting it onto digital form. So you've got the history. Give it a second. Of what's going on. So like, you've got a bunch of random stuff in like first decade. But then they like, you get here, you get wormhole J drives get discovered, they start flying around faster than light. So no, it's a very unreliable system. If you use 100 ships, if 100 spacecraft tried to warp to a destination, 97 of them would make it without incident. 2 would be totally lost, and 1 would have just not left because of a failure of the drive. It's a very unreliable system, but very powerful. And you get here. Humans find land on this planet, so that's what's going on here. Humans show up on this planet. It's a little bit behind human development. So it's probably when they landed, it was kind of roughly equivalent to medieval era. Humans show up, so this is one of the natives, and after about 150 years, or about 100 years rather, they kind of develop up to then modern human standards before losing contact with Earth around what year was it? 2168 or 2165 is when they stopped communicating to try to keep Enterra out of a major war. That's the name of this planet, Enterra. I don't think I said it. But I've got a ton of stuff about this. I haven't finished. I've been working on it a lot. I've got the one I wanted to pull up was this one. I've gotten totally off track. So you've got, this is kind of different demographics opinion on a bunch of stuff. So you've got the Rogue Fleet, which was the first kind of revolutionary movement against the planetary government. They stole a bunch of spacecraft and flew away, and are being chased by some of the Space Force and the Marines. But overall, like the military and the military and the government don't like them, but everyone else just kind of doesn't care. It's just a bunch of random stuff. I forgot why I was pulling that up in the first place. What else is interesting? I've got stuff about the entire solar system. I haven't finished this one, but like I've got orbital statistics. I made all this a long time ago, and I just put it in the document. I did this yesterday. No, 3 days ago. Which one did I do yesterday? This one, common military weapons. It is pretty thorough. I have all kinds of stuff about this. I've got like details about the culture and the like how the different species behave differently to one another. It's because you've got on Enterra, you've got humans living alongside the native species that I've just been calling Enterrans because I don't have a better name for them. I've got the structure of their government. Oh, I have to open this in a website. Hang on. I've been working on this. So the whole thing started. The original thing was the first version of this. It's called. So what he's got is marine combat armor, but that's derived. It's a variant based off of a spacesuit, and the spacesuit started this whole thing. I came up with it because I wanted to make a Halloween costume like 4 years ago. Just never got around to it. Oh yeah, I've got names for like half the government officials. Not everyone, but a lot of them. You've got a bunch of committees. This is a total garbage government. It is flawed fundamentally, which is, it doesn't get anything done. Nobody likes it, but nobody cares enough to do anything about it until, I guess, somebody does. I don't know what year this would be, but after 2215, because that's kind of what I've been doing, the perspective of everything from. So you got the government, you got all kinds of stuff. You got secure. This seems out of. Hang on. This might be the wrong one. This is the one I was thinking of. Government structure. That's right. So this is just a bunch of names for the federal government. This is, let's see. I've got the military structure, which is very overcomplicated. The way their military works, I think, is kind of interesting. So there's 4 branches. I'll show you in a minute. So you've got, let me zoom out. How do I zoom out? This nonsense flowchart shows the distribution of power in the government, and also for the military, I guess. You've got kind of 4 broad sections of the government. You got the justice system, which is basically identical to the US justice system. You got the legislative system, which is dumb and stupid and doesn't get anything done. It's just a bunch of councils that all advise each other. They've got the military, which is somewhat competent. except that the three powerful branches, the Space Force, Army, and Marine Corps, are not actually directly controlled by the government, which is a critical flaw in this structure. They are each individually a private force that has been basically contracted by the government. We've got the Planetary Defense Force, which is the least capable branch. It is directly controlled and owned by the government. They've got like peacekeeping, which is police and security stuff. Let me see. What else do I have? I've got... This is the military structure. So you've got the federal government, which controls directly the PDF. They're lame and don't do much. Basically counter-revolutionary stuff, but only to an extent. If they have to deal with really big threats, they usually call in the Marines. The Marines are the most complicated branch, but also the most capable. So they're decently sized. They are the ones in control of intelligence, as well as military advising. So they have a bunch of strategists, and they focus mostly on special operations and counter-revolutionary activities. You've got the army, which does basically nothing. They're very straightforward, focused on like large-scale ground assaults, both on and off world. So like they can do stuff if there is ground to put stuff on. You've got the Space Force, which is also kind of complicated, but probably makes the most sense out of all of them. It's split up into capital ships and strike ships. Capital ships being like cruisers, carriers, battleships, and strike ships being smaller ships, frigates, destroyers, and fighters. With a bunch of weird promotion line for pilots, you can go from like a defense pilot to an offense pilot to a captain. That's the only officer rank that you can get without actually being an officer. These guys are the most active and the largest branch. They are constantly developing better armor, better weapons, better strategies, with support from the Marines especially, because they are terrified of... Let me show you something else. These guys, when it opens, get rid of the lighting. So this is an Andromedan juggernaut, is what it's called. The Andromedans are a species of aliens that basically showed up one day and invaded Earth. They outclassed, they were technologically superior by hundreds of years, and just wiped the floor with humans. Earth, they didn't engage in Terra, which is why things stayed. They broke communication with Earth once the moon exploded. They just blew up the moon. It didn't even do anything. It accomplished nothing for their goals. But they blew up the moon, and then at that point, whoever was in control of Earth, probably the United Nations, was like, alright, we're gonna lose. But they didn't surrender, because they had learned. They do not respect surrender. They are... So a bit about the Andromedans. I don't have much about them on the computer. They are a very chaotic species. Their civilization is basically structured entirely around stress and violence. They respond to stress by causing violence, and that violence causes more stress, and it's a positive feedback or a negative feedback loop. It's positive, and it just has led to this militaristic society that has totally stagnated. It grew really quickly, technologically and culturally, and then just stopped. They've broken up into a bunch of factions that are constantly fighting each other, with only a couple being smart enough to disengage and try to not kill each other. The force that invaded Earth was a faction that had been kicked off their homeworld because they were too violent, which is remarkable for them. It's basically a bunch of space pirates. They go around raiding planets they find interesting, Earth being one of them. The Juggernauts are extremely rare. They're very hard to train because the Andromedans have almost no loyalty, but the Juggernaut system is built entirely on loyalty. If they are not loyal, they do not become a Juggernaut. There's less than 100 of them in the entire civilization. But the Space Force is terrified of these guys after they presumably destroyed Earth. Enterra doesn't actually know the outcome of the war. Earth lost badly, and the planet was put into an apocalyptic state by their weapons of mass destruction. It kind of sucked for Earth, but there are survivors. There's a group of Mad Max-like nomads, which is that was kind of part of the reason. This whole thing with Andromeda's attacking Earth, I don't even remember how I came up with that. But it ended up being the foundation for some cool stuff that's going on there. No, there was less, so these guys are very rare. There were probably like two that on the force that invaded Earth. Their normal weapons are capable enough to blow up the moon and rearrange continents. It's nuts. But what they have in technological power, they have absolutely no strategy. As is, in 2215, the Enterran military is still technologically behind, but it has caught up enough that just by strategy, they would be able to win against the pirates. Against the whole Andromedan civilization, I'm not sure. But that's unlikely.